Go ahead. This is
Someone
my,
did, I think. Yeah.
It says it's being recorded now.
Hey, another English teacher also coming in.
my teacher. Just delay. Last.
So, but these 8 worldly concerns definitely appear in the writings of Master Nagarjuna.
Last. Tani tanga so popa na chug na sawa chimbo jagar ka kap ti khemo panjata so sawa chimbo sigarete chodo sama ha ko ai na so na chu zya to chonsa jagar re de ora. Ngomolo to ko su chepi jagar kan khemo to sawa chimbo sigare na so kontu sa tel tu gore.
And so Master Nagarjuna is considered, as a very learned, highly respected Indian master, one of these panditas.
Nachu Toma Johnsa Jagari and Sonzata, the sound of China Pol Hachani Nachu the Yapotar de Ore, Nachu Soming Rao, the sort of Yacha Gupchata, Uman Pokan de Gore, not so popin and Soming Rao, and Gina, Yacha Gupchata, Nachu Cha de Ore.
So the Buddhist teachings originated in India, they spread all over, to various other countries, and they they prevail or they've spread quite widely throughout Tibet, and they're like 90. Kaisa Geshe Gupchu.
Geshe Gupchu Chulik Zomi Deptas.
Okay, so 90% of the writings in Tibet are are all about the Dharma.
Jambachi main Rao Tang. Rao, the Ring Rao, the Theore Mountain, Sering Rao, Tanju, Region Sonan, Polia Pachio Mari.
And the other 10%, they concern, other areas such as, medicine, astrology, culture, and whatnot.
Last Tani Sonta Jakar Pontic de Oreta, Nachutan, Dota, Nautan, that's what Sama Karvin, Hachan teaching him in Dota, Nautan Chipa, Hachan, the Chandru Pochita. Zum Daniel the Poisha Penna, Ishi Chilun Regina Tarsa, Ishia Zegorata, Tinsani Tariora, the son of Shopper to Zum Dengo, in the Chowre, Chipanchiri.
Yes, as mentioned, these Buddhists, the Buddhist teaching originated in India and then they spread to Tibet also. And they all the teachings, be it Sutra or Tantra, teachings of the Hinayana, the individual vehicle, or the Mahayana, the great vehicle, all these teachings, they're thoroughly preserved in Tibet. And likewise, like the Christian teachings, for example, they are widespread now in the West and are very well preserved there.
Last one, Nita Teringato Lopsend Sholokachik Tinani, Gombolot Shitinani, Jitin Bineta Manita, Tetamadina, Damanita, Tomachi, and Jitin Chukati, Dakirium and Pitan, and Gonium Zazini, Tsuchi, or what in Gonijoya, Sholokachi.
Yeah, so I want to go through a verse by Master Nagarjuna from his text, Letter to a Friend, where he talks about or explains about these 8 worldly concerns, which are gain and loss, happiness and suffering or sadness, praise and blame, fame, and bad reputation.
Tarkapon Row, Tanichi, Jitin can visit Sanjay Mason, Reserve Tanda, Conjoana, Sanjay Son, Dochikan, Yundula, and the Titanera Mason, Tajitin can be near Tama, near Tanzit, near Mani, near Mani, the Carolyn was the children, near Paziata, Japanjor, Tanto Corsala, Sopa, Sosol, near Patelco, Mani Paziata, Japanjola, Sopa, Sosol, Tombo, Mani, Yopa, Pashondro, and Mepa Chandra, Tinin was the Chegore.
It's all fairly easy to understand, but more difficult to put into practice. But what the first 2 of these 8 worldly concerns are gain and loss. And so this can be, gaining or receiving material, things, or power, good power, and so forth. And then loss, the second one, is losing any of those things.
Not so means how much you pay. Japanjola sopa, the Tokosala sopa, Gavatan, the social son of Magavata Chipai son Satan, Tendichena Caricchio Resina, Japanjo the Tokos at the Sol Shuji Topala Gatricina, Tili Chapan Perni, Nomola sopa, Narjan, Dochala sopa, Chiri Chirindoni Pater, so Mazana, they are Kanapigi and Rojapore.
Generally speaking, we all have a great liking of getting things, material things or whatnot, or getting wealth. But what the problem is, if that's, if our excitement is too much, if we get too excited and, gaining these things, then that might flip over, as it were, and we might give rise to, or we might give rise to whatever, competitiveness, jealousy and whatnot, or pride. And that leads us to all sorts of other problems and trouble.
Last tani marni patazedita so nabgi pamjo chembo ini pamjo to so makashin roya na kosa chembo ini kosa ni mazan roya tandi chevi kapsa kosa zina pombondo
Alo.
Tandi ni mazan roya ro tandi chona tani magawashi chembo chi che yo maris magawashi chembo chena ketani te kanga chi rede kanga chi rede o te kanga kanga tsani Tandri pentoyo marsanza, gomol jo tenin gonyum ze shoze, gonyum ze shoze ti ta top tan corsa la so pa ya pochi chona ya semba lo chinin tri tandri kreta somba te so sam depo chi che ani kan te top tan corsa la so mahni na ya depo chi che ni shota tenin gonyum bo ze tin rabo rabo chi saulo tan ta chi pa chi shu chi gaja ta shu chi kyo ja ma imba partal jash shasho songo
And of course, we might easily get upset if we lose these things, right? If we lose material things, or if you have like a retinue, or like followers, or helpers, assistants, workers, whatnot, and we lose these, assistants, then we get very upset. But again, if that gets too strong, that feeling of loss, and we get desperate, then that's also not good. So that's why Master Nagarjuna gives the advice to have that kind of like sense of equanimity. Even if you lose things, then we shouldn't get desperate and lose hope. In the other case, if we get something, then we shouldn't get overly excited, but have a sense of equanimity.
Tam dotsaduna semgya de chembo che sho sem de pagya chembo che ni teze ke gacho cho ta teze ke du cho cho mai ba semi lo chi ni tembo ya po ji ka sa nga so kyonji chen de shi jin de ne gore zini saunlo te shi jin de shin dong ze de ka din de sa chi do de na ma pa ju ji che yo ma te ja sem de tembo ta gya chembo che sho ze te lap cha ta nong yo sare.
Yeah, so the advice is here to have rather like a vast kind of attitude, to have a relaxed state of mind, not to get overly depressed when we lose things, or overly excited if we get something, but have that sense of equanimity, spacious kind of mind, and be kind of stable in that sense. And the other day, when we talked about the Bodhisattva Charyattara, the way of the Bodhisattva's way of life, we talked about the practice of mind introspection, rather, where we talked about that when we notice that disturbing emotions arise, that we should kind of remain like a piece of wood. But that what it means here, what the relation is to be stable, whether we get something or lose something, have a vast attitude, and don't get overly upset or excited.
Lasani data ma de tam re ni de shi gya kwa ma to de kin de kiri dungar ne dungate koli la shortare tanga so de kin rawo chi lo song de shu chi ke pondu samni sem de choma zo ni shu yang to manru ani kang chin che tiang ngal ta kang che so armaten de zenita du po shu ma chi zo pena nga so na chan rawo na wa tan ri ka bli na tanga na chana tanga shin ro sari ka tanga chi rin ro sari sam tan ri kang ni na ma lo Tenri chenate data to chola nangi manadi ti semba lolo che gores semba to lolo che matonati ngaso nengo malo penyamni na sa duri ndo gores semba koyam bochni do ta nengo malaya ya po chakare tenri zendo ta de achi pare de dikar chona te naujen taki naujen kecha mai ba du na du ma cha kenna ke ma cha ze ngaso pechi ke po chona peti Peci ore risi troppo zia ore tate coach mara da tundi da uchi ma che counter kem do shi uchi ma che kangi ji chona shi uchi kangi na ho ma no tengi ango nyo no so song gore.
And the next one, the third and the fourth of these 8 worldly concerns is happiness and sadness, or happiness and suffering. So here again, it's in line with what has been said before. We shouldn't get overly excited if something good happens, or get overly upset if we face some big, problem, but have that sense of equanimity, and say, for example, we find out that we suffer from a serious disease, then being terribly upset about it all, that only makes it worse and has a negative effect on the immune system. And so also the doctors would then say, keep calm, try to have a relaxed state of mind. So here again, we should try our best to not get overly upset or excited, but have that sense of spaciousness and equanimity.
Last tani nyem ni tre tani ni te ko ta li laura a chikatina ke cha nyimbo ro chanja she ko ma ka shi ke cha nyimbo ro chanja she ma de na shi ke cha manyem ba te shi ti tsupa zan ro ni tani do o tani che yo ma ke cha nyimbo chanja nyendo manyem ba te kyo ni ko sa me ya tani mya ma che wa nga sun ko na ne de yo so sa ke cha nyem manyem ja man da le gri ta ma ta so tang lin ro chin go nyombo che na ma to nyembo chanja lo ngong ko ni ma te nyem manyem ni ka te yo go nyom chik bare Kicha nyimbo chanja mato manyimba ta kicha nyimbo chi sheondi ka ko shi chi manyimba sheondi la san tsik pa za make pa chi tindi chendo tindi che ma ngos ngor
Anyway, so I noted down praise and blame, but so the way it is explained is more like feeling very happy about a pleasant conversation or pleasant speech. Or having a pleasant conversation, which makes us happy, and then on the other hand, having maybe getting into arguments, unpleasant speech, feeling upset about that.
Last tani then last to meni tanga so tora ta mera ta zia tri mitsama tora ta le ga po yor mera ta na lam san pa zan ro ri nam gin lama ta so so chu na ka nam ji chu pa chi na ka shur ta ma so tu ta ku ta tam ze ni sam yor kon ya ta za ya ta ze nian zha sam nian zha ge zha te sam din nang chu pa ta so le tra pa ta so na ka li ka sho ta ta che ma to ya ta ze nian zha ta res music nga khala za mara na ko te de ri shra ka le chi ma res du lo ko ya mara na ya chu pa mon bo chi ka sam go ma res lo kum che ze ko na ta sa ko ta so le ni de res ina mara ta ni te chu ya po che go ma te chi cha bo ta la oni te ti choni arte ngo ma res ta to ra ta ni te ya po re ze ti shu ka po chi ni chu pa la par che che shur ta da to me ni ka nang to ra Okay,
so that one is praise and blame. So this is usually, feeling overly excited when we get praised by others, and this is usually also said to be the greatest obstacle for Dharma practitioners. And we hear that for like a religious practitioner, for example, we need food, we need clothes. Or we kasadi tugu tamsum la chapa. Okay, in other words, for religious practitioners, it doesn't make or it's not such a big issue not to have good clothes, or one can more easily practice patience, or not having good food. That also is okay to be patient with this. But if one has then or gets blamed by someone else, one doesn't receive the praise someone wishes for. That's the major obstacle, which really one hardly can be patient with. And again, as before, the advice here is not to get overly excited when being praised, or or upset when being blamed, but have that sense of equanimity.
Tagaranga suti wang shondro gore mato tengo nyum choni cheto go mari tanga tsundi shishe tati ta jimango nyum cheto mutonga so tama gi shigya te cheto na sem kam da tama le chu no ni yapo chi chako sari te che mato na na gina jero
Anyway, as mentioned in the beginning, these things are fairly easy to understand, but really hard to put into practice. But we should really try our best to work with it, and develop that sense of equanimity. So then improve in that sense. And otherwise, we say the same as before, and run into trouble.
Last tani tel ti korl tani chikte chugya ta tani tante konsa chokona ge sonchuna di domjare Domro Kashin, teaching each other.
There are a few stories I'd like to share that His Holiness often speaks about.
Nema pension Luzan Chuja Pol Ketache, support so Kashin Jikayon, certain so mombo in Kolawanchi Norochi Jeres, and pension Luzan Chuja, one notching me sonres.
There used to be a master, Pension Lucy,
Luzan
Chugel, in Pula, in Tibet. And then there were, on occasions, there were people coming from Mongolia with a whole lot of, gold as offerings and requesting teachings from him, from this master. But he would say, no, I'm not going to teach.
Hani chanzo koro chanzo special gapo sel gapo shui sera koso mombo talama le ke sonchu inchi michi no gore se tsujari ngishi gumela machine ke la yo ke o mari ke la yo tsujani la mala sonchu no chires ni la ma tara sonchu no tsar o te chanzo kangar la ya sonchu te kyoso no itere ta la res.
So this master would refuse. He wouldn't accept that, gold as an offering, and would just say, I don't know anything really to teach you. But then his attendant, or his actually treasurer, he was actually very his treasurer. He was very keen on the gold offerings, and and he said he tried to convince the master, please teach, please but he would refuse, and then in the end the master would say something, but Kaiser Chandala the treasurer would say something to the master, teach this and this and that, and then at the end he said, this is what he said, this is what my treasurer said.
Last the now so de la or lama to solena korea pogo kori dukya in korna justre achigore then a chala ya pochi tujer mombo chikria na jere lama kor chanzo la sopa yapogo ndus yapo mena so dukya ina lama ke kechu chikseor lama le kechu ge na chignon korna justre achigore chala ta yapo na te druyo so jami dru mombo truni deona ko chala ta mi pecho tanto mara te na jin chade
So the chata casa lama ko yapo gogido, so a master
lama koro yabo ina kor dikya ina lama te dikya zo yungres se do ju kor deona pecho tanto mara.
So I get the meaning. So what the idea is that a master needs a good retinue, needs good supporters around them, because if they're bad people, as it were, around them, then it would be like having snakes around, and they would only get into problems.
Tani pension ganimachi ya mi kyobonda wachi tanri lani kola wanchi go into the chancel chisa chunzo ma kyu sho yom go zini yom achiris ni lama ya ta sho kar chains ni kol te wand no go dan rigres ni kol wand pe sapo shuchi na re de lama mishika kanyere shingi yo ndo.
And then on another occasion a poor person came to request empowerments and teachings from that master Panchen Chuki Losang Chugya. And then the treasurer would say, don't send him away, don't need to teach him. But the master said, then he was actually very keen to teach that person, and gave him, freely the empowerment. And then it was showing that, he had a vast knowledge and, did know a lot.
So tete kartongo rezinata katso Nepal tonache omara tanda nga so tombo ngi tamanyisi. Nepalais on dit tu sont caché manie pas on dit ma tu ja ma imbateli dorte che tinjite tu dia que ten tombo te nyam leje te chez vor tu.
So that this story mainly relates to the first of these, or first two of these of the of the 8 worldly concerns, gain and loss. So the idea is not to just like in the story be keen on receiving material offerings and then teach. And then if there's someone who doesn't have much or anything to offer, then not caring about that.
Ni ta ta senyen ta ko don de ke ko nywa zo ngi don to shena ni ma chi yang la ma chi ko ro sam ro de ni ta na to chu po shu che nyen tin chi ku ge de ko sa yong yin la ni te la te jo ku na po ni ya la na to so ma sa chang che yuan chang de ji sham ni zi po shu chi ni go tal ta ya po shu re sha lama de leon na tini po che che sa ni ko sun se nyen rang chi la sa lo tang tan di che ri sa lo chi tang di ta ko se nyen rang la tan ji te chu ge ka ta ma ju do me ni le ga sa ra tan jing men du sa ni ti la jing chu ni cha ma zor po se ni te gu de re la.
And then another story is of a meditator who had not really good conditions in his retreat place. But then one day, one of his teachers was supposed to come and visit. And so he was then, especially preparing his place, cleaning it up and setting up nice offerings, making everything look proper, dressing nicely. But then, reflecting about what he did, he realized, well, I'm actually, influenced by these 8 worldly concerns, and I'm really interested or keen on receiving praise from my sponsor, whoever came to visit. And so, realizing that, he took some handful of dust and threw it on the altar to spoil it all again.
So now you are so similar to Tanita. Tandin jikte chugeze jikte chugeyina re ta nyomong kyong kari na kati namjar gendel so semle sa saulo ta te ajang ke chembo isari ma to je cholo ko kin kyang jang nga so kang zo na shardena kang zo at tsama cholo ni yona shang she so ko saulo ta men ni kang che de at tenri kyang jang sam de na peng ma re so ko semle ta ke cheni kang yon sang ngoni ta ngaru saulo ta man ni rendu ngoni pasho ko cholo ko kin ni rendu saulo ya po ta ma che so saulo ta man re saulo ko yang bo ta ya chen bo ta ka te ta na sem ko nga kang jen ro sem ko nga kang je so na cholo ling ya ka te so na so kang che ma re.
Anyway, so the advice here also is that we should reflect and on our mind, on ourselves, and see what's happening in our minds, if we are influenced by these 8 worldly concerns or not. Because usually also we have the tendency to blame outer circumstances or other people for our problems, but actually the root of our trouble is to be found inside our minds. So and if we work investigate our minds, what's appearing in our minds, and if we try to have this spacious relaxed attitude, then automatically it will have a positive impact, and then outer circumstances or people don't really affect us or bother us really anymore if you have that relaxed, open state of mind.
Koso gom ta so ya pon rop tan chi ti par chi zu po le tan da to mo ze ya ta so gom na tro le yong re ze ndu ni chen len ze ya ta so tong di kala ya za mo go tan ji je yong re ze ndu ta nga so ta ti nyao le yo ma ro.
So there is when we think about the story of the Buddha when he practiced austerities for 6 years before he got enlightened, but he didn't really eat anything or drink anything much, and really was emaciated. What's the word? Emaciated. Yeah, emaciated. But still, he had derived this kind of mental well-being from his meditation, despite of lack of all sorts of things and bad outer circumstances, outer conditions. Or when we think of Milarepa, who high up in the mountains of Tibet, had hardly anything to wear, and it was cold. But due to his power of the mind and meditation, and like Tumo, the practice of inner heat in particular, he was able to develop that sense of warmth within the body, and he had a very strong meditation. And practitioners on that level, they or sometimes or oftentimes they don't even need don't need food really. This cause a kind of nourishment because of the power of their meditation, but we of course are not at that level yet.
Lots of tendency chero atringa tundra tani jor so chuan rayo nangile chi jawa time ni nga so chuan the go figure.
Okay, so that's as much as I would like to talk about or share with you about the 8 worldly concerns and our can open the space for questions and answers.
That's
So like you said, it's easy in theory, but hard in real life. I find especially this like how to not be influenced by the opinion of other people in our lives. Like not so much about praise that we feel well, but we often get influenced by their ideas and their like what we are supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do. So how do we decide what might be good and we should listen to and what we shouldn't listen to?
Kare sigurusana di nyamnenchia di kale kunki kare sana mishem kunki tupo tomo nangne tupo dang tomo ki samsu kare dame di kare tomo dang tomo ki samsu kare la nyengure kare la manyana yaga yore kande sakutukure kaza sangsanga tomo ngatla lapcha sigura lapcha lapure
re tate Tanachu nani shina shirap ke chambore ziyada delik dore ta so nakyo pepcho tana mato ta ngendini di lapchate yakandu yakamandu zegona kapondo koso lapcha kari jawi yange hakomarte tani so nakyo ke shirap ta pecho tangore tani tamatsenal tanga so na katina nachu shegori samba zambo jachini samba zambo jakatani lapchate lengona lapchate leanta tadi kulapchate naje chena ngaso matsenal Rajan Kangal Kangiche Tinal Ningayo and Samjaya Tanjire.
You have to use your wisdom and discernment. It's hard to say. I mean, but also Geshe added, if it's to do with, kind-hearted attitude, right? I mean, it's hard to say what advice people give, but you have to apply your wisdom and discernment. But if it has to do with a kind-hearted attitude, then it's advice you can follow. Any Shemba, Shemba.
Tanda chug.
Sampo la.
Tanio yat masel pentoya ta tanda ngaso chumambonye de wore tanda jimba satron la sopin sombi tishoko slapchaya pojamna nyen. Temari chise gore to gore gore mi jamba chimanya telkate cha gore tendi lapcham
or like having now listened or studied Buddhism a little bit, we know that advice that has to do with helping others, practicing generosity or whatnot, think of the 6 perfections. If it's some advice kind of related in that sense, then of course it's advice to follow. But if people like tell you something which is harming others, then of course it's not advice to be followed.
Abdi nyamle che kabla ta so gunjo paso che ko ne ma chi sanje shu kale jam du ji samela ripa ngi anti na che ko zena so tomato tagore ne ma gemo sho che zena ronje she ore chi ji samela nam to loi sara ne ji samela chatra che ni tanji kale shu ja to pan tom bote ta chu che tan de ku che tan de ko na che ko san ko ro chala tama milche ne ji gandro ni nyamle che ni de sare ne da kashi de na ka de art maten sara de matores kale de mali on sta mela pango tinga pango so sole
we shall say telling a story of a person who apparently was quite inspired by Milarepa's life story, and he thought, I'm doing likewise. So he went off himself into the mountains, into retreat, thinking it could be, he would be at that level as Milarepa. But he only lasted for a couple of months or so, and then he gave up. And by the end, he said, I just became like Milarepa, like a beggar. What's the point?
So quand tu chinyavlen da nyama chil kali mata shuching nyama chakachil kom shu jab chi che gosa ani than che ni ja na pengmar.
Anyway, so the idea is to we have to know ourselves, what we can do. So and we should practice at the level we are at, not thinking we are like far advanced.
Last one. Media na the chokching the chipten shuke bangore. In chokshin dang nga zongo rakore kangba rakore tsamara rakore. The technique just chanyom chegiyore.
Last tandan last hakos on kichwat kiji.
It's easy.
My question was as a layperson, on the one hand, we're supposed to abandon the worldly concerns. On the other hand, we also have to earn money. We need a house. We need, we need to make a living. So how do we balance these two sort of things?
Naso kam dil ta ni mani ni tera chu chawat ja ni pa ta mani ngula so pa ni go yo reste mani na so go ndo as ani ta mani pa ta go nyom ziti ta da su go nyom de ki dan ni china lotre sam lot peshan ro shu ji na ka ta ni shu ji ya ji ngar jan ro ji le de yo ra tani che ko mar pesha mombo ra na ko nya de sho kan ris ni pesha te mombo ji yo ala te pa shor sona semba kyo bo shu ji ma ches Content meeting limited range over. Watching that watching methodological and the Zan range over is and is some of new butches also. Simple locations. Samba Mungian, Pesha go Mari Pesha Zigo Mari the woman Marana Susoni Tom and Javare, Peshil Pesha Mombo goes out and Gashil Pesha and Rick Sayori, but the also Tire Roa Cosmo.
Yeah.
And that some long go him chair, some no tantan. Pesha mombo rana ete go martala o martachit pesha payu shotezo shiuchi gabochini semgnani ngarjan rawota samlo man tata deshos aso nabje popanalte kidukanga chanye zeachi orite riwa kange chona ya semba lulu dia kipo chona semba lulu dia pesha mombo chona semba lulu dia pesha tezmungmena semba lulu semya pololo chi ja shose zute sungyor.
Yeah, so this question relates to the first one, gain and loss. It's not to say that we don't need all these things, but it's basically a mental attitude. Yeah, the attitude. We should have that sense of.
Balance.
Yeah.
Balance.
Not getting excited.
Yeah.
Pesha tesio ti kensa chendo, shiuchi yanachi million tonchonche sosoya yanachi, shiuchi chichi yante ti kyonzo rajon ti pango ti sochini semba kyopo. Katani machini semba yapochi lolo checho, somba chimbo ti sotini yore zengdo, pankari china kyonrana chi lolo detumni, kefsan rana lolo detumni, katani chiko yisari, somba chimbo ti loko chimbo shu yore zengdo, te yisari.
Some people, for example, business people, they might get, overly proud of themselves, when they have some, good income or whatever, if their business goes well, and then they have that sense of pride and showing off. And then on the other hand, if they make some loss, they get devastated, yeah? So again, it's good to have that balance, a sense of equanimity.
And the shuchi sembayan tombo chena, tu ngarjertan chatopan jansimla sopan, ramandachi leungudu, asoha kondo. And then Simba Mashu Chasona, so the Gangi on the Gangi Leon. They need to match in it.
We should therefore we should be relaxed, have that relaxed kind of balanced state of mind, because if we get overly excited by having, wealth, but that quickly turns into, we quickly then give rise to these afflictions of jealousy, pride, whatnot. And on the other hand, if you feel devastated when you do something, then that only creates so many other difficulties for us.
Kitani Nachunani, Pesha Mugota, Banjo Mugores in it, and it Johnny Songo, Mashi class. Jimby long your changi days in the share, is it Dembaro? Not so Jimbaya Potangores, Jimbaya Potana, Tishamal, long your chimbo chakres. Kasi long your go mena, Jambatan shall long your young race in the shake one and Gomolo Jokoson and Donal, son, responsible to long your go race, long your go or it, long your to social and Samotata Chichini, Tingo, Chapa, Yaparman, this teach up but then there's some Zambuli churches is it Chala Yapot and Jima Condendo, and some Kanga and they are going as only while Marini Kangin on Sandwich. And she was.
Yeah, so it's not, the teachings aren't saying we don't need all these things, we don't need any material things or, resources, we do need these things, because it is also said in the teachings that by practicing generosity, in the future we will have good resources, but if we didn't need any resources, there would be not any point to say this, that generosity leads to having, being well off in the future. Tani
Nato Panjo Sosoli, you are the Dopa Makani, Goya Mansona, nanga motan drago mar te san chala ya po khando do mota rina mota ya po kaze zindu dulo yo zai na zai andam dra kong chimbo ta tenri mom samanga chuto go na nga chonjong marazi
먼스라 잘라 망보 야포 망보여라 아니 창망 먼저 녀투고 말아
말해
디지네 딘산도도 망보 야포 망보도 디지네 내 먼저 대바 친구 말해
말해 anyway, so if we have this great desire for many resources and all sorts of material things, we'll never be satisfied because we find a whole lot of good things around which are available. But if you have that greed for all these things, then we will never be happy and satisfied.
That's all.
I've just got a question about praise, and as a teacher in the Western culture, our philosophy is success begets success, and so that's how we operate. We praise students, and that encourages them to learn. So I'm just really interested in how, in this tradition, how that learning, is it supposed to be intrinsic motivation? Like if you don't praise students, or is praising them necessarily a bad thing, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Is praise necessarily
A bad thing.
a bad thing? Kung te nupchopilong pala kayan ileka chige sare.
Lasola.
Ani nupchoki luksela loptukla tura mango tangyore. Kasi dila tene konso lopchong ya pochigere rangaso yagido yore. Shetsang tura tangya inchiminchi dukcharebe sti kecha.
Laso dembari ngaso te mi jamba tora ta tana enjugumro ta ngaso tora legani te to na chedena ta kan senyen ral to na chedena le ka amal mi pombochi inare lamachi inare seinare ko tora changjang ge chetele ka chedena ni parishile ka sama chincholon rojar tora achik nganra chik mi chik chunji sheka china ngal tora topi chete chute shena chu chakare chakamare bombo chikina mamanga chete lekale tora topi chete lekale dena teche reu marwa kokoro kokoro chete mug chulig chena te ya ko tawani ni sagmari ya pugta sol lobcho ya ko cheni tora tana te tanju ko chete
say what Geshe says is that it's fine to praise students for their development and in order for them to improve and so forth. That's totally fine. What we're talking about here is to teach, say a teacher giving teachings in order to be praised, or some whatever other person engaging in some work in order to receive praise. That's not really the right thing to do. But as a teacher praising students is perfectly all right.
Doing Pojag and all Yambar Mavazin, Majambal Kajashiti, Yambar Magore, Tora Tango, doing Pojazia, the Gugicha, Tawina Chushinke, in Ari Gugicha, Natara, Jambal, Yambar Magola, Kanyambo, Poshigore.
Well, in the teachings, we oftentimes also talk here about, the method, as it were, or gathering disciples, and there are different aspects to it, as it were. And one of them is actually speaking pleasantly or praising the other person. So that's fine. Yeah.
Would it be wise for our practice to focus on all 8 at the time, maybe with equanimity, or maybe pick one at a time, and maybe try and work with our relationship with just one?
Sorry, I didn't get the beginning bit.
If it's best for practice to work with all 8, or maybe pick one.
Okay, I see. 아니 공식으로 sana susun 냠lela chichen chugi chatsangla da 냠도 가자 정도 지고 그래 양면아 이나네 직 양면아니 토마토마디 그주시기 지기
근데 때 빠름 지오지 말이 소소 참아 냠도 제토는 냠도 제나 야쇼 쓰기요라 이나니 소소를 간로를 빠빠 직제나 안 듣고 Tesoso chiche de ponro anda te chena ya boyo sari samsam chiona chiche na andko teni jeka che thona andko reta nga so na chu na chena jeka to tenji te chu ge wan so na kang che kere ze orta ina nga so sama che go ze che ma to na ma to re te che go ze ayo mare te chiche to na ni che to na ni te na nga so na ge zopa guan ta wo nyam le chi che to na ma se le pe ni je ta wo nyam le chi che to na nje ko yore tsama che to na pa som so paro what an is
I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like up to you. If you think you can practice all of the 8, then it's fine. It's good, very good. But you can also just pick 1 or 2 or half of them, and work with them. I mean, it's best to work with all of them. Like also, you have the practice of patience and generosity and whatnot. If someone feels like they're able to or want to particularly practice 1, that's perfectly it's all right. It's very good. Practicing all of it is of course the best, but it depends. Depends on you really.
And then that's on the she goes on the shaking linger chandrik machine Jikamara, Nabji Chuina Church Yoni Shego Yori, the Shego Nangaro Lalita to Mato Mari Canto to Chiari, Kyoto ya Canto to Cherry Mato, she said Sama Sama the Yam the Chetos in it, Hachakapo. Raw, Nandi Shego Sonsa, going at Sama Shego Magatinani Chishini Jajan, Jikamara. Shegora, she's on the Katina. The Terina Jitichugena, Japo Tama Shegorite, Najana, Chinchingration, Tripa Magua Chandration, Chatama Shegor, and Asheni in Santa Machine, to Kumarakote, the Corlina, Yamnogic Sasan, Yankayungo, Shady, that's how much Shegre. In a lolly that we got so Yamli Chicas, how much Tumnata Yaporite, Hachanka Poricati, two chicks also. Can enjoy it.
I was just, Geshe says, I was talking, about them to explain all of them. But in our practice we do as best as we can. We feel we really want to work on what is best for us in our practice. We can choose basically.
And sorry, I wanted to ask, so you talked about gain and loss, happiness and sadness, and praise, and the stories, but I'm not sure if I got all the 8. In praise and blame were the 3rd and 4th. And then you have also fame and bad reputation. Okay, I missed that. Fame and bad reputation.
But the way Geshe explained it was one of them. Also like talking, having pleasant conversation on the one hand side, and then pleasant speech, as it were, and unpleasant speech.
Yeah.
So, which doesn't really,
This I got. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
So you say relaxed state of mind. What is the best techniques or things that you could recommend, to maintain this? Because I feel like when I'm here and I'm in the zone and everything is good, then I go back home and then everything is just forgotten. I have to come back. That's the reason why all costs come back.
Sem Lulu, Sem Kishira, Sem Lulu, the Tapkare, Yakshikari Kaisen Kosigi Rosana, Peshana, Su Yomi Kapsu, Ra. Sem Lulu Pedo, Ra Chizotanyam in a dene Nangla Logne, Nangla Lepsane, Sem Kishiri Lax, Tikido, Chitan Damutune, Sem Kishiri Gogura, the Tap Kari.
Sem goes of them on here the same goes over your. Do Pacha, do Pacha la Sopata, Chardon Mosum la Sopa, Sem Katemana, Sem de Young Mason, Tagasanga, to Kunji to because Jambata Shijinika, similar Sotache or Songodoa, Sem the Givi Chulpata. Katina so similar Sataketanita. Je demande à tenir sem que nous avons tant de comme du pas sur qui membre qui journée rendu des temps da ya changa just so sem que nangi chonza chi che to na pas sur qui ende so le no pas to marca ça que ni contrôle ta le payer so sem que nan ta temps che jo ta contrôle long que ka te ona nga pas za mari sem nani sem de pas tant qu'un cheni ni pas sur contrôle non avec qui yori ta chi na je ne pas sur le nan le na recar dona Sema Machi Pazo Chologo Jikin the Condi. So Tikable Semle Takitan. So Semle Taziachura, Tanshijinga, Patanita, or Dangi Salon the Digitana, Tinamachipa Chakariti, Choyo Mares, Pena Contron de Chilona. Don't Sama the Soso Remato Jambal, John Chunio Manga, Col Contras and Katechi Denena. Gangi Tama Narol Tigrim Kolichika no Mari. No to Mari, but Gacha Chine, Gacha Chingicola no Gacha Gacha Karalan no. What the jig is Saulotani Katina so seamless as Saulotan. It's a pingery, yeah, me.
And yeah, so it's all the way how we think, right? And looking inwards, what's going on in our minds, and yeah, the way we think. And we also talked about this in previous classes on the way of the Bodhisattva on these classes, Wednesday and Friday, when it was about mindfulness and introspection, looking inwards and then observing what's arising in the mind. Is there anger? Is there attachment? Whatever? Are there these afflictions coming up? And then trying our best to modify it. Or then observing, when we have anger in our minds, how we see others, and how we react, and how that leads to problems. But Kaiser, similar.
Similar part Dangat Pazanduzo, control, so shoot on a Nangarol Pesho, Temaji Nasata te Pengdo, Ben and Gondicina on a Saulotan, Tin Nagando at any park, and to 20 pass Saulotan, the Persian Nasat the Chondin and Droit and Ria Peng, Nasale is Peng, Pasaulotan, Nasatal Pasaulotan did. Pena, Lapandichin Natin, a good thing Nasat the Chindish until Pasaulotan, the Persi lounge drone to this one. Then it's him going to control on the control on set the car and do same market patch on the market set the car in the part, this on the Paland. I don't know, this pink in the chin.
Control Kabayana touch it by
that's in our control part theatre.
We could check as a method also, when we notice anger arising, we can investigate where is the anger, what happens, and that might be helpful to make it diminish in some ways.
But sometimes you notice that after you get angry. How do you notice that before?
Right.
Because every time it happens, then you get angry, then you start investigating, and then. But how do we stop it?
From arising in the first place. Yeah.
Machi Nelia. Tan Nagel Saulotan, control, Pena control Tauchi, control out Sambal, Jambal Makini control the language. Jambal no pandre, passion control on the cool Magani control the language. Samlon wrote the passion and now purchase some gore. Roa, control on the passion and now purchase some gore. Jambal. Yenaya.
Mishima Ducare,
Dicamari, Dica Keshamari.
Shembara, Munichina Kondusara, Anna
John the passion of change it over.
Munichina, I want to lose you, but I am losing myself. And I show my anger. Till that over it. Sana Kolumtena Shembati to feed Chawasangora. In a
Koran, Nabjang control on it, Conrani Tangarina, Sani Nabjang Gidan Saulotantina, and each control Kienda watching Che on the Semba Lunda which did to a yonger. Control Kien the Jamban Chegora, Chi Kien Yongo raw. Control long like your Lolo did the control on Alanga. Kati control Langan.
Makiba, no,
Makiba, County Leon. Chalon Christian Dramada Children, oh, Tian Dramada Sema Machion, the town control on a John Rani, the Naro Remato, partial Chano, Maris, and give them the test Saulotana, control John in Dorje Resami.
I mean, oftentimes anger, why does anger arise? Because we see faults in, other people or outer circumstances. It's if you have a that's the thing. But if you have a relaxed state of mind, then anybody can say anything to us, then we will not get angry. But
really, the Katina, as the Shenke na Yatara, she shares Choso Ching, she shares which camping Marina, Naja Jungati Soundlot, suggesting Donda Chingina, Saulo Cornidina. Nicali Semlin Johnny get them come Chichiliando, depend over. Pena, Zobazia and Indi Machi Shetandangani control Corsiora, Zogum Chegor is the thing, she kitchen in the kitchen Pengamar, Pengamaro. ngaro jenten go zo pa sho la sa lo ta de na pa shi jenten jani tani shi control on yo na mo wa tani chung do she ma so choro yinji ke shi ra ja yinji to shi
What he told is that Gemma is teaching for us about the practice, right? Then we also just merely listen. That will not be enough. We have to go deeper in ourselves and practice and daily life gradually. Then it will be improved. Otherwise, it's not easy. So that it will be habituated to our mind.
We'll get the habit.
Yeah, later on. Tolerable to that practice like that. What I felt is what he is asking now, how we can control our mind while we getting the anger, right?
Oh, see, the main thing I sometimes feel like this is what I was thinking. Like sometimes you wear something like this, something just quickly remind you at that moment, just before you can react. That's what happens. Sometimes you forget. It's not like you don't know, and then you realize it after the action is done, or you've said something which you maybe sometimes got upset, or you said something which is inappropriate, or So I'm just saying I just meant to say what is the best technique that you would recommend? Because to kind of say maybe to remind you before you take before an action.
It's like how to save himself from 3 poisons. So he has these poisons coming out like
you
a snake.
told that no. That is I think you can get your own best method because we know our best. Nobody. So if teacher told that is the best to practice with, it's quite tough. It will be maybe suitable, not perfect. Right. So you have to analyze yourself that in which way I can overcome. You don't need to wonder that I got angry and then later on only I realized. Everybody can feel that. But before arising the anger, you have right? You have a sense of anger, right? Before arising, what I mean. In a practical way.
But you get clouded in that moment.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying what I'm trying to say is that before we get angry, right now you are not getting angry. Your emotion is balanced, right? When I get irritated, you get angry. That time you have some sense of anger, right? Yeah, that is the one you are saying not able to
understand to
Along the pause. The pause which she's saying, the sense which is there, observing
that
the
sense
anger.
is already coming from here, starting already. Then only thing is if we not practice means it's quite tough to control, right? So mouth and we show angry.
Pena dadi kasanga mocha tani chigla so mocha tadi tani ro ti puki zero ma cheni lam go zero pa control shu lang ndu se tendu chi la pe jana anga so mocha tani on the tanga control ana nga no ro te kol ndo ri sa lo chi ya po chi tani tenji chilo ko tien de le on the lam san tento pa chi so go ta chi chan shi jing go ta che go ri te ma chena peng ma
You got what he did. If driver gets irritated when traffic is so jammed, then that driver should think that if I get irritated, it's my own loss. It's better to calm down, and only then he can drive. No, when jam is off, like that we have to. When anger arises, if you are able to control that, it's my own loss. If I show it up, then you will little bit bad.
It could be anxiety, it could be excitement, it could be anxiety, it could be any of these things, right? As long as it's in control.
Yeah, it's good.
Control the changing che go ndo achlo chen de che on the lam sa so so ten to pa che go re mo te ma chen control le ai ma
so mindfulness is the key.
Mindfulness, yes. If you get a very high level of tolerance, then only you can able to sense the anger and able to control. Otherwise, it's quite tough. We all get used to angry easily due to lack of practice.
But in Dharamshala, I don't get angry.
It's only when no. I got angry often in Dharamshala. I stay in Dharamshala almost 24, almost 20, but get angry oftenly. You're really lucky to be.
Ngemal te takye chitang. Sacha kan le na ro. So tsikpa za ki kien ro to kari takye ya po chitang. Ani takye ya po chan jima kien den che on de za chin o ta yang control line go control on nga chong ra kare san ni te kien ngemal kien de takye chitang de sacha ki chapari yo.
Yes, I just have a mind.
You can check what triggers your anger in various places, various situations.
It's actually not triggers, it's just specific people. It's just specific people that. It's just specific people.
Mexican, Tiwa.
You can't stop talking to them. It's like you're stuck with them. Let's get down for.
We also not getting angry to everybody, okay? We also get specific people, those who make us irritate. Not everybody, right? Then please also not make any sense to the your mentality. Dharamshala not, it's a peaceful place at one, but not make everybody. Suppose that place is making us more happy, means those who are living in Dharamshala should be very.
No, but I tell you what it is. It's not that. It's like when you're here, like automatically you, like say, I mean, like when I'm here, this is a routine. You go to Shita in the morning or whatever. You do some sort of practice is happening.
Yeah.
You know, there's some sort of like meditation which is going on. And then you go back. And it's always, I don't know what happens. It's like forgotten. You know, the next day, and then maybe because you're here, you're in control. You have that morning meditation where you, at least that morning, where at least something where you calm your mind down. Then you come back and then you're in a monotonous city and there's so much of stuff happening. And
then
it happens to be.
Dharamshala you become soon. So what happens is you really like to see that das pipengere in the nangla lok chale ene tushita yumaro di tongche chengonam dilikarina tongche sangising momo yete sacha di laktogere
with agitated, angry people, stressful job.
Yeah.
So it's about the stimuli as well. And there's only so much you can do by controlling the mind unless you're a very advanced practitioner. It's about seeing what local reality you're a part of. So if you change the local reality, the stimuli, obviously you feel a bit different. So it might be a lifestyle consideration on top of mental training.
And there is a moment that comes like your dharma drops.
You know, like,
I take my dharma back up again and then you come like, okay, I'm very masculine.
What I thought is that when you are going to meditation center, for what purpose you went there?
Chetani zopa gomsa te control on ta sacha de yasho re do.
Yeah, then you have to take it serious, not
Control on vi kien ka te che go na kien de to ha ko ni zo gom che to res. Nindi tanda sacha de china ko ambore control on kien shira man che ni control man mo zopa gom ba ka che de.
We can go to where the pleasure, right? Environment, nice people there. Then you get there and just moment happy there.
Anila, te isare sam, nga sam. Koro ndo Dharamshala de control on ya kien raw shira man thani lo cha de na tanap ke shata leka che san raw ina ka ni jo rim control ke mon bon che sa cha ter le on de te control le on. Son sa ke tan chena zopa gomsa te control on ke mena zopa sala gom control on ke mon bo yo sa te zopa gom na te zopa ya po cha ka yo mo te ha ko control la lo me sa ki po chil de na zopa maza na te zopa ke che che o mare. Son sa Koro control on sacha til le sa ti kien te sol sa lo tani tanga control on nga chon ra kare sa ni te ti ani yang de chen ba che ta tani zopa ya ko legre
whenever you meet these people or whether you're in these circumstances that trigger your anger, it's actually, I mean, think positively, these are good opportunities to practice your patience, and without any people or whatever that triggers our anger, we wouldn't, be able to improve and develop patience. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, right. Thank you.
I think even in love, you have to develop patience, right? You have to wait for the person, or you're in love with nature or whatever. And I think in love also, we have to develop patience.
Yeah.
With love or anger, I guess, same. We need patience to deal with it because the attachment comes.
Yeah, that's true. But for where there is no irritated people, we all can be patient, right? that irritating
Chuji
people
nam
is
tak
needed
mang
to
ni
take
so
care
shame
of
ba
it.
chuji is
Otherwise,
piu
you
zi
are
nyare
alone,
se
alone you are not
chuji
able to
adi shan sai
Yeah, it's good to like
lo
practice.
yi ji
Yeah,
yo
right.
Ale ko
ni
If you
na
know
so
that
chi shame ba
the place
wa
where
ka
you
ti
go
na
in,
sama
that's
ki jab che
the
tani chi control
peace
la
of
ken
house,
chu ni
no?
man chi ni ko
Your
zo ba
heart
ko mi ya
make
ko mu du
peace
san
wherever
piu
you
ji
go,
nyare
you are
Pigu.
piu
Yeah, otherwise the meditation center
control
only
ngara
this
ni ma ta
place.
ba ko zo kom che to du mun du ko ra ta ke ta ya
Then your life
Piu,
full
piu,
in
ki,
the
ki.
meditation
Piu
center, it
hakwa.
is much better.
Yeah,
No?
piu monkey.
This will be a
Monkey,
little bit
monkey.
prolonged, I think.
monkey chi na
Otherwise,
nya na
no
ke
way.
cha
You
kare
should
cha
really,
la cha
I
kare
think,
ya yu
you
ko
should
ma
teach
shi
them
control ngara
how to
Ale.
prolong your happiness.
tende ching na
How
chu
to
ji sa ko le tende chi she
And gradually,
ka sa ke nga so chi she sa
the only
Piu,
thing
ding,
we
ding,
want
ding, ding,
happiness
ding,
means we should
Yung
not
ama,
disturb our emotions.
sa shishima ni lugi de shima kumi
Wherever you
pedukcha
go, you know.
nyamdo dogyore.
o tende
Di super komya kitira.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's
chu ji sa yo chu ji ro wa pol pe ka sa ta la ma chen bo re thama ki jab che ya po chen ni ta ni ta pa le pa ya po ndo chi ma to du pi control za ken ji choni ma che te ko zo pe nyam len de ya po cha ndo mun to ha ko mun pi u chi nya re pi u chi nya ne pi u te sha la ja de ke cha cha la cha kare ya dong re ma de control long ra te ni ko zo pa ya po yo me te ha ko re ni te ta re te ni lo ji chi yo
There's another story of a master, Tibetan master, Atisha. You but he came Pula Pepsi. The Indian master went to Tibet, Atisha. And as he was, this highly respected Lama, he had all this, supporters, retinue around with him, who were always very respectful and kind to him. But he said, that's not good for my practice of patience. So I need some good opportunities. And then Geshe says, then apparently he took a monkey with him, who always made everything in a big mess and created chaos. So that to help him practice his patience.
piu ki jab che chi mara piu ki ku jab che chi mara tu pa sa ni ra
Monkey doesn't know how to speak, or doesn't show any respect. So
only distortion, right? Then we have to get chance to practice the patience. That's true. That was our enemy is the best master to practice our. Our enemy is the best master for us to practice.
Enemy is the best man.
If I angry you, you are the best master for me. You practice tolerance. Yeah, that's
any other questions?
yeah
We were talking about praise and blame. And I think what often happens, I don't know about your experience, but to me it happens a lot, that people expect us to behave in a specific way, and if we don't, they punish us, especially at our homes. Like my parents literally said this to me, like, you don't deserve to be loved by us because you don't behave the way we want you to behave. So how do we deal with this kind of situations? Because in everyday life, this happens.
Det tyra da mera kola det var ju så risigt då. Samsam kasa kunki pama pesha shana va konda kunki pama dan kurang di samsun midawa isare. Ani kunki leka kare na chigena yang pama ki samsul dan mitumbai re. Isetsang pama kare sirusana kerang yatsuki sewa kasa Raya mi Wipa Mindo. Karen Sena, kan se ngati ka la nengi samare, kisan kan ngati kan sewa yamare.
ani
Yeah, the kare sigre. So the question then
to balance that you are right.
So we shouldn't go for praise and blame.
Yeah.
But how can we do this if we get punishment if we don't do what people want us to do?
Yeah, so tyra da mixe gawa mepa mera.
te to melen jo due
Sigido.
tangi jo ya po ko
But yeah, how does that relate to praise and blame if you don't listen to your parents?
like
Yeah,
we act in a way that we think people want us to act. Like we try to please other people. There's this term of people pleasing.
Yeah.
And if you try to not do this, you might have serious punishment from the people.
Punishment.
Yes.
Oh, no
Like
way.
emotional punishment, I think Rita's saying.
Yeah, but also like parents beat up their children. I'm sure we've all heard about it.
Yeah,
Like if you don't
oh.
behave like we want, we smash you. This kind of stuff.
Okay.
So there is another
Shamba
level
kare
to
dugi tam
this.
di dan leka min tun pa che ba yana mi shamba ki kala manyana mi shamba susurang tam nipa tangyore di
So samata.
Ale ta pamata so kal manyana pamata so gaboche mundu sita karche gore chawatiriwe.
안디도리 그게 베차잖아라 아니 먼저 밀라라 가야기 지 자와치 마치나 오늘 지나 야두케요 말에 다미 가야기 자와도 마치 바이나 미 건도 나안도고 말아 미 tambo를 라라 미 tambo 미세 막 가요 말래 디다버래
Ale te chena
간지
jukundo.
수수기다 수수 셈데 디스 마쇼인데 간지 밸런스 소리 라이자
Ale miso
이제 마치나 야 미기 수수내라
gaboche.
소고라
Re. Atate perche zobata chikpanda ochirete takinajete phasho question sama phasho ngoli yorete ni sonje cheto mares ngaro sem de ngaro lo sansa koso ya poche na ya ngalo devi yo poche na ngalo devi samba so samlo sonje cheto na ya poche pengre teman na chikpare na kinajere koso Choro injing lat.
What Gela told is that we no need to be a people pleaser. You know, it's hard to practice, but if we are going in the right track means if people don't like also we can't do anything. If we are doing something good, around surrounding people don't like, we no need to matter. We should tolerate that I'm in the right track, I'm in truthful way, so I'm sorry to those who feel like that. Then if ourselves is going in the wrong way, of course it's much better to do those people who are giving suggestion in a good way, to like a people pleaser, but benefit for ourselves means it's okay to be. But what Gema told is it's our mental way of thinking, using our wisdom, in which way it's better to follow. Yeah. Otherwise it's quite hard, no? Always be people pleaser, I can't survive. I don't like it.
Re.
Isn't it the case?
Yeah, I agree, but there is still the point that people get beaten up for not doing what other people want. There's also on the government, but like he knows from Tibet, when the Chinese people came and the people didn't do what the Chinese wanted, they went to prison. Like
that is true, but we Tibetans fortunately get a very peaceful leader who influence us to tolerate. Because if we are impatient, we are not able to against them. We don't want to disturb our emotions. Right. So His Holiness also told that don't be ill feeling towards the Chinese people. Even though it's unfair, we also believe in karma. What we have done before. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 세원 지역에 가지면 랭아마랑 무슨 가르치면 하마라 개미랑 무슨 두고당 매라야마라 매라이드 가디밍나 하마라 이도고게 루무체게 무슨 라라 파마가 치아요 말이라자 띵일래
Tanda kuzea te peti wancha chimbo to so chikche na chere mache na chi kyo nipa tanga yezea tendri wancha chimbo chena ni go garna ya preta ku kanye na ya shore mo gjonra kar.
It's better to surrender.
Now you give different example or give about the Tibetans, right, who ended up in prison or whatever, beaten up by the Chinese.
Yeah, like often when we
Yeah,
don't
Pejana,
do what
yeah.
someone
Pero.
wants,
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah,
live
yeah.
with the consequences.
Then he says that, I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, again, you have to apply your wisdom in the sermon, but there might be a situation where it's better to listen to what the other person says, because then to avoid greater trouble. That's what Geshe just
Wancha
said.
chimbo
Listen and just don't pay attention. Because like
We should give attention, otherwise we may lose. No, we should give attention.
It depends.
It depends on situation, but we use our mind. In which way is better? If suppose one Chinese people told me, you should not go this way. If that with a gun, I better to listen, no? If I don't want to die or hurt me, then it's much better, okay, to just listen and come. Baby. Then that also that human being, no? They don't realize something good way.
Chapol tungna go gurare ma tonga so laki maro.
Come to
You
the
need to love
situation.
Damodar, need to love.
If no attention, then how to resolve?
Chapol tungna tare.
Rare,
And that peti
Go,
chapo
go,
ke chadra
go,
ma so
go,
kenso ko ke chata mai ba chapo ngoni litu sona.
I think
Go gurjar.
Mingyu Rinpoche said like how to turn poisons into medicine, so you can like apply that, so you can turn your anger and regret and whatever rebellious nature into medicine. At the same time, you can transform it.
Yeah.
Die Mingyu Rinpoche har liksom såna Suzuki Dukra, den Yamong las Kongto las bei Dukan lang chiwa, die Mendan da wo. Die Kongto Gyur.
Kengalam chiranga so man da chinro imba. Kengalam chirse. Kendi saulo ta to na da yashore.
That's the best way to think, to take the like misfortune or bad circumstances into the path, using it, like you say, transforming it, using it for the path.
Nga songe manzanda chinro le te kengalam chirse ya nga so matendal kangi ka chinro go chida chikchena tsenga min leg na me injiri na men da tanro de yores. Sendi dungar nyoa te tili duga nya la so pi dungar mo nyoa bento yores saulo ta chiche.
So the one way also to think is that, when we face problems, difficulties, whatever, we could think that it's a way, or it's something ripening. We have created like karma that's ripening. We have created in the past, and now that we face this difficult situation, we are actually purifying that negative karma, which then is gone. But once it's purified, we won't, and if that wouldn't be purified, then we would only, that would only get worse, or we would maybe even end up having worse kind of stuff.
There's no way of measuring this, right?
If your karma is not able to measure, means it will be keep on going. No measurement.
No, but I'm just saying maybe you did something and you forgot about it, and
then
I'm just saying.
That's sometimes you wonder why bad things always happen to me.
Teta matia zikita mepa yena kyoro pu lo chi ni sam yimbi ka lo kar chi o chengndwe. Tende chikche yora da to chikon cheng tamu guta lo chi chong ngi chalam ma che se je san do kyang ma jel ta chang sa
I mean, we can't remember so many things, right? Even things we did when we were small, or we forget so many things.
Mo che yor je sarwa. Dikpa ta yori.
But anything negative that we've created in all this, everything can be purified if you don't remember.
If you don't remember,
you can purify anything. How many things we can't remember? Most of the things we can't remember. But you still can purify everything.
And that's what practice
and purify. Well, that's why I'm saying. There's all these different kinds of purification practices.
Legend college nimashing as a single legend that Yargan with Trim Zat and Yichipanda, which is legend as a sontant, the Trim sontant. Pena Michigan Alana Pochi Cheona, Chichena, Nilingama Tagisha, the Jesarawa, Nipata Karasavla town, Yetel Lane Jamna, Narman the young Anyogor. Kenga Sushti ne Pashune, Chumton Ningali Nipayora, Nepa Mashuna Chumgura Tache Cheore, Ne Tache Gomar, Nali Nipa Mela, Korungu Nipat, Chumgatache Cheora, Data Chipale, Jimre Koro Tache Chen in Rojakare, Naso Pale Machena, Nason Palentena, Naso Legion Revianjo Tache Cheore. Legion de Sontan, the Chum Sontan, the Kitchen taking all meats and opportunity, pan opportunity, Kolea Nani or Ngalia Nani. King on opportunity, Pamachina, Dupa Koroki, Jangal Dupa Yomar.
Anyway, so that, I mean, it's a big topic about karma, causes and effects. If, say, someone is nasty to you or oneself, says something harsh or whatever, then well, that can also, that has to do with something we have created in the past, that we experienced that nasty, whatever, unpleasant situation. But if we then say don't react negatively in return, then that karma is kind of like purified. But then if we can't like react in return, say something nasty in return, we again create more negative karma that in future will again ripen on us. Anyway, the karma cause and effects is a big topic. But any questions from the people online? Maybe not. Okay, we stop here.